everyone. A warm welcome to IREX Residency and Citizenship Conclave Virtual Edition. It's great to have you all joining us from different countries, along with our esteemed panelists together on this platform. Looking at these challenging times, we at GMN Media have put together this platform as an opportunity to educate all our esteemed investors, investment bankers, lawyers, immigration consultants about attractive citizenship and residency programs on offer. We bring you a panel discussion on various comparative analysis of global citizenship and residency by investment programs offered by different countries. This session will be for 45 minutes, followed by Q&As for 15 minutes. I would like to introduce Anisha Nayar Dhawan, our special guest moderator. Anisha is a seasoned television journalist and business news anchor and has worked with some of India's top television channels, requesting her to preside over this much-awaited panel discussion. Over to you, Anisha.
Thank you, Rohan. It's really a pleasure to be here at the IREX virtual conference. It is so exciting to hear everybody who's going to join us, our esteemed speakers. So a big hello to all the global citizens joining us today. They say we live in a global village with trade, commerce, and internet touching and connecting all of us. Now, let me ask you one question. Over the last year and a half, how connected have you felt being locked up at home most of the times? The COVID pandemic has taught us the value of life, choice, and movement. It has also made us value good healthcare facilities and the resilience of systems to bounce back. Now, as we speak, international students are scrambling to complete their applications and start college in a foreign country by fall this year, as commercial international travel still remains grounded in most countries. COVID cases are increasing in many parts of the world. Many businessmen who had seen their businesses suffer locally now wish they had a hedge against the slowdown at home with operations in another country, which may have bounced back faster, perhaps due to faster vaccination. Those who lost their near and dear ones in the recent second COVID wave may feel that even their comfortable, generous means could not get them access to critical healthcare facilities when they needed it the most. As you can see, many new reasons have been added to the existing list to seek a second home, a residency permit, or even citizenship in another country. Now, how do you pick amongst the many countries that welcome immigrants with their citizenship investment programs? What are the investment options available to potential investors? And what should be the factors that should drive your decisions? In this discussion today, we have representatives of countries that offer popular citizen investmentship programs to guide you on your investment decision and answer your questions. So please put your hands together and welcome our esteemed speakers. We have Sarthak Sharda, General Manager, Indian Subcontinent and Arabic-speaking region, Visa Development. He represents Greece Residency by Investment Program, or the Golden Visa Program run by Greece. We're happy to have Shilpa Menon, Senior Director, India, LCR Capital Partners. She represents the Portugal Golden Visa Program and the USA EP5 Investor Visa Program. Please also welcome Ignacio Donoso, Managing Partner, Donoso and Partners LLC Canada. He'll be talking about the Canadian PR Program. We have with us Dr. Samuel Sciberras, Legal Associate, PKF Malta. He represents the Malta Residency and Citizenship by Investment Program. We have with us Neumann, Managing Partner, Citizen Lane, Germany and Austria. He'll be talking about the German Business Investor Program and the Austrian Residency Program. Please also welcome Margaret Wilkinson, Attorney at Law, Director, Infinity Grenada. She'll be representing Grenada Citizenship by Investment Program. A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you all for spending the time to join us for this discussion. A small request, I request all of you to keep yourself on mute till I request you to speak. And we will be taking up questions from the audience in the last 15 minutes of the discussion. In case the audience, if any of you have questions, please feel free to post it on the chat box in the Q&A section. We will take up your questions in the Q&A session, which is towards the latter half of the discussion. But do type in your questions as and when they come to your mind. Don't wait till the end. And you may also click the raise your hand button in case you want to ask your question directly on audio. And do mention the name of the speaker when you're typing in your question, the one the question is addressed to. So let's get started. And I want to thank all the speakers for joining us. So let me start with you, Sarthak. If you could tell us what are the features of the program that your country runs, and have there been any changes during the COVID period to the program?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Anisha, for the introduction, and greetings of the day to all the esteemed panelists. Now, going back to a question, the Greek Permanent Residency Program is set at an investment in real estate of 250,000 euros. It's been the same as far as I can remember since 2013. The big changes, if I may say, that have happened, or if I may say, the savings that have come through for investors in this program is the government of Greece announcing that there's going to be no VAT on any transactions of real estate, until the end of 2022. Now, bear in mind, the VAT in Greece is 24%, which is, I would say, massive saving for any investor, and also at the same time, a great opportunity to seal the deal for themselves and save some money. So that is one. Another important change that was made during the pandemic, which we all are still currently living in, is that the government, to promote the program further, allowed processing of permanent residency remotely. So that was a big win for us, especially for countries like China, countries like the Indian subcontinent, who have been heavily relying on this program for whatever needs that they have had. So an application can be processed in any of the embassy or consulate of the country of origin of the applicant, and the whole process can be done remotely. Some people are okay with it, some people are not. But we are living in different times, and we have to adapt to different kind of methods, and hence I would say that's a great deal that the Greek government has given to the investors.
Right. So Sarthak, we've understood the changes that have been brought, and we've understood the minimum threshold. Could you also take us through the timelines and the residency required in the country for you to get permit? How long do you need to stay, and which areas can you invest in? What are the options?
Right. So I had covered this in my presentation, but I'll reiterate. Now, the investment is 250,000 euros. It really depends on how quick you can make this investment. Let's say, should you be ready today with the 250,000 euros and you have made the investment, our company, along with the lawyers that we deal with, we can execute the whole process within a matter of 2 months. Now, it is only because the government has allowed the same-day approval, which means if you file for an application, the same day the immigration department gives you an approval, because all the due diligence has been done beforehand when we go and submit. In terms of investing in properties, although Greece as a whole is a beautiful country, lots of tourists who come to Greece every year. Hence, the islands are also very popular. There are about 3,300 islands, out of which only, I would say, 1,100, are the ones which can be accessed or inhabited. But a choice remains Athens, because it's the center, I would say, of Greece. And at the same time, out of the population of 11 million people, 6 million live in Athens. So it gives you great advantage if you want to give this property out for rent to students, who are again a big chunk out of the population, to the tourists who come to Athens to enjoy the lifestyle, and at the same time long-term leasing to the families.
All right. Samuel, you're representing the Malta Residency and Citizenship Investment Program. So could you take us through the salient features of this program and whether there have been any changes brought about in the last couple of years?
Yes, sure. Well, first of all, thank you again for this incredible opportunity. It's a pleasure and an honor for me, myself, and my company in order to be able to share our perspective on this immigration sphere among such an experienced group of panelists. To start off, I really must commend the Maltese government because it took advantage of the current trying times due to the pandemic, which has negatively hit the immigration sphere, and opted to improve and amend upon the former programs, the citizenship and the residency programs, which they themselves have been very, very successful. However, these new amendments make these investments more streamlined and more accessible to our interested investors. Today, with respect to this citizenship, Malta offers the Maltese citizenship by naturalization for exceptional services by direct investment, referred to the MAIN, published last November 2020. And on the other hand, with respect to the residency, Malta offers the Malta MPRP, the Malta Permanent Residency Program, published this last March 2021. Throughout the years, Malta has established itself as a tourist haven and an international hub with great business opportunities. And therefore, it's very good for foreign investors to have a look on what we can offer. I think the first one is very important, the citizenship program, which is now divided into 3 main stages: the residency stage, eligibility stage, and citizenship stage. If successful, a citizenship application will be submitted to the relevant authority, the Community Malta Agency, after 36 months of residence or after 12 months of residence by exception, depending on whether and how much the investor is willing to wait to obtain nationality. If the citizenship is obtained after 36 months, the investment has to be of 600,000 euros, but if obtained after 12 months, the investment has to be of 750,000 euros. In addition, one also has the choice to either buy a property, which has to be retained for at least 5 years of around 700,000 euros, or rent a property for 5 years as well, which must be rented at least 16,000 euro per annum. There is also the requirement of donation of 10,000 euro to a registered non-governmental organization, and therefore, for a family of 4, taking sort of the minimum options available, the total costings will be of around 900,000 euro if one opts for the 36-month residency. On the other hand, if one opts for the 12-month residency, 1 million euro would be the total cost. I believe the main feature of the citizenship by investment has to be the size of Malta. We are a very small island located in the central Mediterranean region. We have a very ease of contact and efficient connectivity, both domestically and abroad, due to our cross-border relations, whether it is being the setting up of children to school or pursuing a degree at the university, or setting up a business or incorporating a company, or even finding an opportunity of employment. And furthermore, Malta, like India itself, we are also an ex-colony of the British Empire and a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, thus sort of holding the same values and goals when it comes to democracy, free trade, and world peace in general. English is also one of the main languages in Malta, and due to our colonial history, we are all bilingual speaking. Apart from that, other features of the citizenship program include the peace of mind of having obtained a citizenship and nationality in one of the most free, safe, and stable country in the whole world, the ability to live and settle and work in any one of the 20 European member states. One can also enjoy free visa travel to more than 170 countries, also including the United Kingdom, the USA, and Canada. Free visa travel, of course, within the Schengen area with a right to stay in one place for 90 days up to within 6 months. Schengen is the EU's passport-free travel area. It is, I think, one of the most tangible achievements of the European integration. And also for personal and business life of the interested investors, our strategic location of our island, we're just 2 to 3 hours away from all major financial capital cities in Europe, making Malta, I think, the perfect harbor. I think it's also worth mentioning that there is guarantee of access to a highly reputed healthcare system in Malta, ranked 5th globally, which has again been demonstrated, unfortunately, its resilience by responding to the current pandemic. High quality of healthcare is indeed one of the most attractive features for visitors and foreign investors, and also permanent residency in one of the EU's leading countries when it comes to LGBTIQ equality rights. We, from our end at PKF Malta, have been a very active accredited agent since the introduction of the immigration industry back in 2015. We have processed numerous applications, and we are thankful that until to date, we boast 100% successful rate. In fact, we actually have an ongoing actual application and process for citizenship by direct investment for an Indian national and his family, which is currently in the second stage of the process. After several years of being in this business, we today enjoy a strong and fruitful relationship with the authorities and the relevant organizations, and we are familiar with all the context, the challenges, the ins and outs, and we can assure that we can confidently assist and secure a successful application for all those who are interested in our program.
All right. Thank you for that the comprehensive details about the program run by Malta. Shilpa, let me come to you. You're representing two countries. One is Portugal and the other is the US, the EB5 program, which is a very popular one, at least amongst Indians. Now, Shilpa, let's start with Portugal first, because we've seen huge amounts of investment coming in the Golden Visa program of Portugal. And we are even seeing now that, successful citizenship applications coming through now. So many years have passed. So could you take us through the highlights? And like Sarthak and Samuel have told us about the recent incentives being given by the government, what were the changes brought about in Portugal and EP5 during this period?
Sure. So let's start with Portugal, just like you said. I mean, first of all, thank you for inviting me, and very happy to be here with all the panelists. So let's start with Portugal. Portugal, in fact, is, there is sort of like an urgency driver in that program right now, because the Portuguese government has come up and said that they're going to tweak the regulations, and those regulations change as of January 2022. So what happens is, some of the options in which you can invest, and there are around 7 or 8 ways you can invest to get a Portugal Golden Visa. The popular ones being real estate, of course, purchasing a real estate, which is what people have been doing for some time now. There's also an option where you can invest in a hotel rehabilitation project, which is usually at a lower ticket size of around 280,000 euros. Real estate is, depending on where you are, it's an urban or, rural area, the amount varies. It's between 350 to 500,000. And there is also a fund route, which is taking a lot of, grabbing attention nowadays, because people like the seamlessness of having to invest in just a fund and not have the real estate hassles, of managing something. So that is currently at 350, but at the end of December, even that fund route becomes 500,000 euros. So, and given even in the real estate option, you cannot invest in the main cities of Lisbon and Porto after December. So, people who would really want to stay in the sort of attractive areas in Portugal, or rather the ones that you're familiar with, they are trying to make a beeline right now. So actually between now and December, we expect a lot of Indian investors also to sort of make a beeline, make use of this, regulations before they change completely.
Right. Could you tell us what are the changes?
Yeah.
First, there's a deadline, but I mean, because we've seen Lisbon property market has been really hot and giving good returns. So is that off the charts
yes.
now?
Like I said, it's, after December, you cannot invest in Lisbon and Porto. You will have to necessarily invest in rural areas. The other thing is that if you're considering the fund route, you will have to invest 500,000, whereas right now you can actually invest in a fund at 350,000 euros. So those are the main changes. Actually, the hotel rehab option does not change. So people who still want some time to think, they can actually think and then later go on at 280,000 euros or 350,000 euros even after December in the hotel option.
Right. And Shilpa, what about the very popular EB5 program? A lot has been written, spoke about how it has lapsed, at least the group investment program of EB5. Could you take us to what is the program and what has changed?
Right. The EB5 is basically, the US residency and road to citizenship program. It was launched in 1990. Okay. So there are two parts of it. There is an EB5 direct program, and then there's an EB5 regional center program. Now the EB5 direct program is a permanent program. It goes on, right? Anybody who wants to invest a certain amount, which I will tell you why I'm saying certain amount and not a specific amount, is because there's some changes that are going on. Invest an amount in the US to create 10 jobs. That person and their entire family, which is their spouse and their kids, can get access to a green card. They will get a green card typically within 2 to 2.5 years, and then they have to prove some conditional, residency rules that they need to, make sure that they are in the US at least every 180 days, etc. There's certain things that they need to show for the next 2 years, and after that they can convert that conditional green card into a permanent green card. So it's a very popular program because, of course, as we know, it's the largest capital market of the world. It is the place where you get, definitely I can speak for the India market that education seems like a very important benefit. A lot of our clients, prospects want to do this for their kids, for better education prospects, better career prospects, right? Even if somebody wants to join the Silicon Valley, startups. We've seen a lot of traction, a lot of demand for this. But recently, the last 3 weeks, there's been a lot of changes in the last month over this program. Typically, the regional center program is more like, company like LCR, for example, would pool money from investors who want to invest in the US and then deploy it in a project that we select, right? So there are various other service providers like ourselves. So that's how it works. That's a regional center program. It's done through regional center in the US. But the direct program is where the investors actually set up their own business and make sure that those 10 jobs are created. Naturally, when you're going to do it yourself, there's going to be a lot of work there, and there's a lot of hoops that people have to jump through. So the regional program actually ends up being much more, favorable. In fact, 95% of people who apply for EB5 typically go through the regional center route. Now, in June, at the end of June, the regional program regional center program has temporarily lapsed. Okay, what does that mean? That means that right now, if somebody were to apply for the EB5 through the regional center route, it would not be accepted. The USCIS is not accepting any new applications anymore. The ones who've already got their conditional green cards, of course, nothing changes for them. But the ones, no new ones will be applied for, and the ones who've not yet received their conditional green card, they have to just wait and watch for a bit. As a firm, and because we are very well entrenched in this ecosystem in the US and we understand this, so our view is that the program is going to get live again in 2 or 3 months. We expect by September end for the program to be sort of reauthorized. And then, initially the program used to have a minimum requirement of 500,000 USD, right? And as of November to 2019, they hiked this up to 900,000 USD. Okay, but in June, on June 23rd, there was a lawsuit against that move, and then they struck that back down to 500,000. There's a whole history there, and everybody's encouraged to please go on the LCR website and check our blog post on this. It explains the entire process of what happened. But suffice it to say that currently the rate is 500,000 USD. And okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Shilpa, if I want to invest in the direct way, because the pooled one is in abeyance, yeah, what is the amount that I need to?
It's right now, if you were to do, one could argue that it is 500,000. In fact, immigration lawyers would, if you work with them, they would tell you that you have strong grounds to defend your case in case if it ever got rejected. Of course, there's a risk. There's always a risk when things are in abeyance and things are not clear, because, technically the direct is on and it's back to 500. So yes, but there's always a risk. So there are a lot of prospects of ours who would rather wait it out and see, what clarity emerges.
All right. Ignacio, for Canada, during the pandemic, what kind of changes did we see? Because the Canada PR visa is extremely popular in India, and a lot of Indians and others around the world are also keen on Canada because it has a thriving startup market, and you can build companies there. So during this pandemic, have there been any changes? We've seen the government there come up with SOPs for businesses, for unemployed. So has that changed the immigration process and the numbers of applications being processed.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak at this wonderful event. So the Canadian immigration landscape is incredibly vibrant and has been for many years, particularly for the Indian market. Indian citizens arriving to Canada feel very comfortable because of the long tradition of immigration to Canada. So what's the attraction? It is a G7 country, one of the great industrialized countries of the world. It has one of the best public healthcare systems in the world, one of the best education systems in the world, peaceful and tremendously welcoming to immigrants. Canada has explicitly for decades taken the position that immigration is fundamental to the future growth of the country. So it is a period of time in Canada's history where the country is actively looking for immigrants to settle in the country. So if you're an immigrant, it is an opportunity. As I always say in the immigration field, sometimes doors open and sometimes doors close. So when you hear that the program is changing, as another speaker just mentioned, or in the US program, the EB-5 program, which I work with tremendously as well, is changing, take that seriously. So in relation to Canada, Canada's reaction to the COVID-19 crisis was to close its international borders. That's the truth. And internally, they've dealt with the COVID-19 crisis by limiting movement of people and preventing people from spreading the disease domestically. Now they've implemented a massive national vaccination campaign that is proving tremendously successful. And that bodes well for the future. But during the COVID-19 crisis, investor immigration was hit over the head with a 2x4. What that means is that it essentially was dramatically impacted. There's two reasons for that. One is there was an immigration program in Canada, which is still around, but it has been severely limited. It is called the Labor Market Impact Assessment for Owner-Operators. This was an extraordinarily popular program because its features were so attractive. You could start or buy a business in Canada, transfer yourself to work in Canada for that business as a manager, hire a few people, and through that process, you would obtain a sufficient number of CRS points to qualify for a Canadian permanent residency after working there. So this had no minimum investment requirement and was extraordinarily prompt in its processing. It was really a wonderful program. But as I mentioned during the first part of what I said, doors open and doors close. And in February of 2021, the Canadian government announced that it was changed the rules of that program. And the rule change was very subtle, but incredibly important. The labor market impact assessment requires, in the past, did not require the owner of the company, which is the foreign investor that's moving to live in Canada, to advertise his or her job, to meet the prevailing wage requirements, which is a minimum salary that the Canadian, let's say the Ministry of Labor requires the foreign worker to be paid. And it didn't require the Canadian company to try and find the local worker to do the job of the foreign owner of the company. All of that made sense and made the program incredibly attractive. And the Canadian government just said, as of April of 2021, all people, including owner-operators of their business, have to do all of those things: prevailing wage, they have to advertise their job, and they have to meet the good faith job offer requirements. So suddenly, the program went from the most popular program to being essentially a tiny little program. People are still trying to navigate how to do it. It is not closed. It just means that you have to be particularly detailed and thoughtful and careful in your planning on how to do it. So that caused everybody in the investor immigration space to pivot and look for other solutions. Now, Canada has dozens and dozens of programs. So how do you do it? And the answer is you have to find the path of least resistance through the existing programs. So for example, suddenly the intercompany transfer became incredibly popular. So foreign businesses transfer executives or owners to a new Canadian entity that they either buy or incorporate. And then that transfer will eventually lead to permanent residency after working in Canada for at least a year. Another program that suddenly became very, very interesting was the C11 program for investors. This program explicitly allows a foreign owner to buy or start a business in Canada that is important for the Canadian economy through expansion of trade, through the novelty of the type of business that's being pursued, and then also for the possibility of job creation, particularly in regions in Canada that are a little underserved. So not the Greater Toronto area, not Vancouver. Canada is a vast country, the second largest country in the world by geographic area. So there are many places in Canada outside of the Greater Toronto area and Vancouver, two of the most beautiful cities you could ever imagine, that really are in need of investment. And these kinds of visas through the C11, for example, turned into a very attractive proposal. And we're pursuing that obviously for many of our clients. And lastly, there's the Canadian Provincial Nominee Programs for entrepreneurs. These are fantastic programs. Every province has one, and they have many subspecialties in the programs. So during the COVID-19 crisis, one thing that happened was that all of the provinces had to deal with the fact that people could no longer travel to Canada to physically see and negotiate and meet people. So they had to react and adapt. And they did that by using Zoom and other measures to be able to come to Canada and visit and learn how to navigate the program. The program for Ontario is one of the most popular ones. And it has three basic concepts. It has minimum investment amount, which has to be satisfied. It is not a negotiable amount. It is a minimum investment amount set by the government. It has a job creation requirement, and it also has the requirement to manage your own business. These are not passive investments. These are investments where you, the foreign investor, will actually run the company. I could delve very deeply into that. I don't know if you would like me to pause for a minute.
Yes, Ignacio, there's a lot of information coming in. So, and like you said, Canada has many options. So for the audience, for the benefit of the audience, could you tell us what is the range of investment required? Whatever method people consider, whether it's real estate investment, whether it's starting a business, whether it's the provincial investment required, what is the minimum threshold and what is the amount required as an investment?
So that's a great question. If you are in the labor market impact assessment space, or you're pursuing a C11, there is no specific type of business that is required. You can invest in anything, and as long as it satisfies one of the three requirements: novelty of the business, strategic business, or job creation in an underserved area, then you're likely to get that program through. But the PNP, the Provincial Nominee Programs for Entrepreneurs, do have very specific rules, and they exclude certain businesses from qualifying as eligible targets for investment. So for example, a small bed and breakfast in Ontario is excluded. Certain types of loans are also excluded. So if you start a business to make small loans, that you will not qualify. And these kinds of details become very, very relevant when you're looking for a target for investment. Real estate businesses are wonderful opportunities, and we're pursuing that now for many of our clients.
Okay. We have a lot of questions which we will take up, but I just want to get the overview of the citizenship investment program from some of the other countries. Till let me come to you. We want to try and understand about the German Business Investor Program and the Austrian Residency Program. Could you run us through this? Because many Indian companies, especially in the engineering space, do have close business contacts with German companies, especially in the automobile space. So could you tell us what is this program?
Yes, of course, certainly. First of all, thank you for having me here. And it's also good to talk to all of you here. I was actually very interested listening to Ignacio, what he had to say about the C11, I think, program it is called. because it is quite comparable to what we have in Germany and also in Austria. I will talk about both programs. Let me start maybe with Germany. In Germany, we don't have a very specific regulation about how investor migration shall be applied. It's all happening on local level. So what we are doing there is we first of all, usually when we talk to a client, we take up what they do, what they want to do as kind of a business. And it is very important to say that the investment in Germany needs to be a real tangible business. So we are not talking about passive investments like buying a property and just renting it out. This will not work as a business model in Germany. Of course, if it has a certain scale, the story looks different. But when we talk about investment amounts between, or let's say below €1 million, then a passive real estate investment is not considered business in Germany. It's just a passive real estate investment. In the area where we can invest in Germany, that is also very free. And also here it depends on what the business is doing. The law requires us that our investors bring a benefit to the country. And it's basically all a matter of negotiations with the authorities, and different regions and different states in Germany, they have different points of view what they deem beneficial to their regions. So there is a lot of question marks always around, and it's not easy for us to bring that closer to our clients. And if someone is really just pursuing a residence permit in Europe and doesn't even want to live in Germany, the German residence program is not the right choice for them. There's other opportunities like the Portuguese program where one can get a residence permit in Europe through a passive investment. In Germany and also in Austria, that same goes there. The aim of the governments are to attract businesses and real businessmen who want to further and develop a business in Germany or in Austria. The regulations, I'm talking always about Austria and Germany, quite in a similar way. The regulations and the processes are quite comparable. Whereby in Austria we have a minimum investment of €100,000, and in Germany, theoretically, once we had a client, for example, he was a software he developed a travel, and we got a residence permit for him, and it for him is to secure his livelihood in Germany, and he a Mexican citizen, and he just we had a business model sell his idea as a beneficial investment for the German economy, because he might employ in a couple of years' times dozens of employees. Maybe not. That can happen. The authorities will not blame anyone when they cannot fully successfully, or at least to their expectations and ambitions, realize their business. No one is throwing them out of the country when this is not happening, as long as they can support their own livelihood and their family. So from that perspective, we are very free to invest in any type of business. But when it comes, for example, to questions like, we had questions from Chinese citizens, for example, saying, I want to open a Chinese restaurant. I don't know what to do and what kind of business to do. Can I open a restaurant? My wife can cook. And I said, yes, of course, you can. But this is not a business where you get a residence permit on. Because when you open the 150th Chinese restaurant downtown Berlin, where is the economic benefit? How shall I base a case on such a weak case? On the other hand, when somebody is furthering trade and export, or is employing many people, or even just the perspective, there we can build a case upon. But I always base the case and the discussions on the CV of the experience of our clients, because each and every single case is totally other programs, because it is just too individual here.
So thanks for that, Dil. We've had a little problem hearing you clearly, but we're running tight to time, and I'm going to go to Margaret and understand from her the salient features of the Infinity Grenada program, the Grenada Citizenship and Investment Program. Margaret, Grenada is a small island country. How popular are its citizenship by investment program? What's the big draw here?
Our big draw, during the COVID, the government gave an incentive, and they increased the National Transformation Fund, which is a donation to the government. They increased the commissions payable to marketing agents from 15,000 to 25,000. Also, the government automated the processing of the applications. And so we process applications in 90 days, and we no longer require original documents because everything is uploaded on the system now. So those were the two big things the government did during the pandemic, making life a lot easier for a lot of persons applying. The big draw in Grenada is that we have the E2 visa access, which is the access to citizens of Grenada working and residing in the United States of America. The details on that is that Grenada had this treaty since 1983, and it continues to this day. So once you get Grenada citizenship, you are entitled to have access to the E2 treaty, the E2 visa. In addition to that, Grenada has 5 options for investment. And our 5 options are: you can invest as a single applicant, and you pay $150 donation to the government, or you can invest with a family of 4, and you pay $200,000 to the government, which you could include any 4 members of your family. Going forward from that, we have 2 other real estate options, which is $350,000, and you can buy a share. You could buy an investment in a unit, some sort of property. And then we have a $220,000 option where you buy a share in a development, of a unit in a development. And then there's another feature which the government encouraged, which is the feature of a significant investor. So say you wanted to open a factory in Grenada, then once you are investing more than $5 million into that project, the government of Grenada will grant you citizenship. So it's called a significant investor because you are going to be creating employment. You are going to be part of the community. So that significant investor is something that is pushed to encourage development in the country. But moving on from that, from a tax standpoint, Grenada has no capital gains tax. So you do your investment as it stands, as the law stands now. If you go to sell your investment, which is allowed in 5 years' time, it's tax-free. The government don't get involved in tax. As citizens of Grenada, you become very fortunate to the fact that we don't have inheritance tax. We pay no taxes on inheritance. So as an investor, when you pass on, your children or whoever, they have the benefit of your investment without any issue. Grenada also did an expansion of its program. And so now they allow grandparents, we always had dependents and spouse, but we expanded our program to include parents, grandparents, and siblings. So if I'm a main applicant, I can bring my parents with me, I can bring my grandparents with me. We keep the family unit together, and that is a focus of the government of Grenada in keeping that unit together. And beyond that, we are allowed to have dual citizenship. So myself, I hold 3 with no issue. And we also, in terms of our processing is quite expedited. And At the end of it, once you're an approved applicant and you get your citizenship, our passport is issued in 3 days to you. So with
Margaret, sorry, the only question is, how long does it take for you to get citizenship? Say you invest in a real estate project or in a unit, like you said, as a family of 4 or family of 6. After you make the investment, how long before you get the citizenship?
If there are no issues on the part, if the due diligence providers do not need clarity of persons' names, between 72 days to 90 days maximum. There are times that the application will be extended simply because additional enhanced due diligence has to be done.
Okay, could you give us a time frame and how much could it be extended? Because, you know, like in Portugal, they have a plan that you have to spend X number of days each year. After the 6th year, you can apply for, you know, permanent residency. After a few more years, you apply for citizenship. So is there a timeline in Grenada as well?
No, we have no residency program. We have no residency requirement. You apply, 90 days later, you become a citizen and you become a person constitutionally, just like myself, who was born there. We have no restrictions on any person who enter our citizenship by investment program. Our program was established in 2013, and since then, our program has been going, we have improved on it constantly, as I've stated. It's going smooth. It has no political interference. It is run by the Citizenship by Investment Committee, and they do 4 levels of due diligence on every applicant. So when an applicant is approved, there's no issue with that applicant becoming an immediate citizen and being treated at the same level constitutionally as myself.
All right. So now I'm going to take the questions that have come in, because a lot of questions have come in. And let me start with you first, Margaret. We have a question which has come in for you. The question, I don't know the name of the person asking the question, but his question is, my daughter wants to pursue medical degree in St. George University. Will being a resident in Grenada or a citizen of Grenada reduce the tuition fee? Could you help us sell the property after her course ends and also assist her for a work visa in the US?
Yes, our company, Infinity Grenada Inc., it is a full-service immigration company. We have a specialized E2 visa on board with us. And yes, St. George's University is our pride and joy medical school, as you know. And so we can assist him with the processing of his application to become a citizen. His daughter entering St. George's University, and with the sale of his investment after. We do provide that service. As a matter of fact, the service is called by us, making a passport holder a citizen of Grenada. So doing all of the things that bring you into Grenada and settle you down, your tax ID, your driver's license, your bank account, all of those services are offered by our company.
All right. We have one question that is coming from Mr. Thakur, and this is for Till. Till, your audio was not very clear, but the question that Mr. Thakur has is that, does one have to wait for 8 years to receive the German passport? Is there a faster way of attaining the same? What is the minimum number of days that one has to stay in Germany while they are on their temporary residency visa?
Thank you for the question. So first of all, citizenship in Germany, we can or even apply for after 6 years when somebody has a B2 level language certificate. There's also a way to get citizenship with an integration test after 7 years. Just to mention it also for Austria, also there it is similar. After 6 years, we can apply with good language skills for citizenship, otherwise after 10 years. And regarding the question, how many days one has to spend in the country, there are Actually, the law doesn't foresee any exact number here. People often assume or hear that it is half a year, and lawyers who give these answers are usually, I don't think lawyers give these answers when they know the topic right. But consultants do say usually half a year because they want to be on the safe side. That's an easy way out, but the law doesn't really foresee anything. The law just requires that the client has his center of living in Germany. And also here, it depends, of course, on the individual case, how we can demonstrate that the center of living is in Germany. If the client, for example, has family abroad, an elderly mother which needs care or which is sick, no one in Germany, no government officer would take away a residence permit for that reason. And if the reasons are valid, why someone is traveling, even if it is just vacation, no one can say you cannot go vacation 3 months or 4 months or even 5 months. But one should not spend the majority of the time in one specific other country if one doesn't have a good reason, except, for example, the family, or if you run a business abroad. So to answer that question, there is no number. And we just need to be able to justify why someone is abroad, if someone should stay more time abroad. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean that we can just come back after half a year, because there's one simple rule in Germany, and that simple rule says one loses the validity of the residence permit when you spend 6 months in a row out of the country. Mm-hmm. And just coming back in the 5.5 months for 2 months doesn't qualify on, at least in the long run, to maintain a residence permit, because then will be questions, right? Somebody tries to obstruct the law and abuse the law in that way, and just coming back to maintain his residence permit, that will not work.
All right, we have a few more questions. Shilpa, one question for you has come in from Mr. Khosla. He's saying we would like to make at least 30 to 40% of the total investment in EB5 by borrowing from my relatives based in Atlanta. Will this be allowed?
So there are various ways in which you can fund your EB5 investment, and you can definitely take a loan as well to fund some of this investment. It's just that whatever funds you use, it needs to be clearly documented and legally sourced. I think that is the only requirement. So as long as you're able to provide that all of these funds, what is it based on, what is it collateralized or whatever, where is the source of the money for the person who's loaning it to you coming from, all of those things. So typically they go back, if you have a property to sell, which was, it just goes back to the 1940s, you probably need people who work through that as well. So this is where I think we can help, as in we provide free consultations to our prospects where, where they may have confusions on how to show what kind of documents, etc.
All right. Sarthak, there's a question for you from Mr. Das. He's saying, I'm 60 years old. We are a family of 5. My sons are 30 and 27, one of whom is married. I want to know who should be the primary applicant for the Greece program. Will we have to file as 2 separate families, or can there be a single application?
Right. Thank you very much for the question. Now, according to the law, it says main applicant, spouse, children up to the age of 21 years old, parents of the main applicant, and parents of the spouse. So 3 generations, ascendants and descendants of the main applicant. Now, in the family structure given by, I think, Mr. Das, is one son, like both the sons are late 20s, let's say. So what I can really suggest is it's going to be 2 applications. And if they want to cover themselves, one of the son can actually apply as a main applicant, which will cover himself, his family, who's the one who's married, his family as well, will cover Mr. Das and Mr. Das's spouse, and the parents of the spouse of the main applicant. And then they'll have to do a separate, file for the other son. So, as per the law, it's going to be 2 applications. Also, I would like to mention is that there is no residency requirement, within the country to keep your permanent residency in Greece. It's simply tied up with the investment that you make. So till the time you have the investment, you will have your residency. And post 7 years for adults, if they live for 183 days every year for 7 years, after passing a basic language test, they can procure the citizenship in Greece. Yeah, and for kids under the age of 18, if they study in a school for 6 years straight without giving any language test, they can become citizens in the 7th year. Thank you.
All right. We've got one question that is coming from Mr. Shah for Samuel. Samuel, the question is, what is the difference between Maltese permanent residency program, where you have to spend 100,000 euros, and the Maltese citizenship by investment, which starts at 600,000 euros?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that the Maltese passport is without a doubt, when comparing both solutions, the Maltese citizenship for exceptional services is stronger than the Maltese permanent residence program, as it offers higher level of state due to the citizenship and nationality status obtained. Furthermore, of course, the investments are different and also the consequences are different. However, one can enjoy both residency obtained in our country and the ability to live and settle in any one of the states of the islands of Malta. Furthermore, the citizenship by investment also has the 14-day travel to Malta in order to stay here, in order to obtain the biometrics and to complete the permanent stay. And on the other hand, the residency scheme, the MPRP, for a property, the investments are very much less. However, there is also the need to secure a 5-year rental property or purchase property on both. Furthermore, the MPRP also accepts 4 generations in one application, giving the opportunity to an interested applicant to relocate to Malta as a one whole family unit, sort of, in order to relocate to Malta. Furthermore, the processing time for the MPRP is much less, is between 4 to 6 months when compared to the citizenship by investments, when it's either 36 months or 12 months, as mentioned previously, depending on the willingness of the investor to obtain nationality.
All right, Ignacio, we have a question from Mr. Ravi Bindal for you. He's asking, what type of assistance does your firm provide to someone who's interested in identifying an area which is where a business can be established in Canada to fulfill the PR requirements?
Thank you. So in relation to Canadian immigration, we do the services of helping form the company in Canada. We would quarterback the acquisition of or start of the business, make sure that the business plan is in accordance with the requirements of various Canadian programs, and basically shepherd and guide the investors throughout the process until they get their permanent residency. That we usually do end-to-end services for Canadian investors in that. Sometimes we go to the length of actually doing diligence on possible targets for investment and analysis of the let's say the situation of an existing company. Obviously, starting your own company is a lot easier than buying a company, but buying a company has the benefits of seeing how the business is already running. But those benefits only arise if the documents that you're reviewing about the business are reliable, and that's what we do. That's what we refer to as due diligence.
All right. There's another question from Mr. David for you, Ignacio, and this is there a minimum number of days one has to live in Canada between receiving their PR and the Canadian passport? Does receiving the Canadian PR also give you visa-free travel advantages in countries like the US and the European region?
Yes, there is a minimum number of days. Basically, you have to spend approximately 180 days in the 5-year period. So it's not exactly the hardest thing in the world, but in round numbers, that's really what you're looking at. So compare that to other countries that have a more rigid system, including the United States. I saw a reference to Germany. That's the typical requirement, but in Canada, that doesn't apply. It's really a 5-year window during which you have to spend at least a year and a half to 2 years there.
All right, Sarthak, we have a question from Ms. Maria for you. She's asking, since Greece is dependent on tourism primarily, how has COVID affected the rental returns for investors? Have property prices decreased? Is this a good time to invest in Greece? The threshold is the same, right?
Right. Look, so it's a very good question. And I would like to stress upon the fact that, yes, the 80% of the economy is based on services, and of which tourism is a very big part of it. But don't forget that, in services also comes agriculture, also comes shipping, also comes tobacco processing, chemicals. And as we know, shipping, was, let's say, the main source, along with, airline industry in terms of catering to different countries with different goods, which were stuck for a long time during the pandemic. Now, in terms of the property prices, I mentioned during my presentation that even during COVID, we had an increase of 1% in terms of increase in prices as I compared to last year. But yes, services which were completely based on tourism, like anywhere else in any other country, they were hit. We are recovering back because the government of Greece opened tourism about 1.5 months ago to everyone. It was open to European citizens, but now it's open to third country nationals as well. We are welcoming people in Greece. The rents have started picking up. I have to mention residential was least affected, but commercial was definitely affected because of the restrictions that were there in place. So I would highly recommend, if someone is looking at purchasing a property, residential is the way to go to secure the investment. Thank you very much.
All right. Shilpa, a question to you has come from Mr. Vijayan in Bangalore. He's asking, can you help us find tenants if we invest in a property in Lisbon or Porto? If yes, what's the average annual rental return after adjusting for maintenance and other charges?
Right. So typically, I think the rental yields are in the range of, say, 3 to 4%. You can even get somewhere 4.5% or so. Typically, the partners that we work with, these are the people who have turnkey solutions. They'll also help you put these properties up on rent and all of that. So, I mean, typically, when you come to us, you'll get like a full solutions.
All right. Margaret, we have a question for you. The question is, would you suggest government bonds as a more viable option for Grenada? Since our ultimate goal is to set up our business in the US, their EB5 application has been rejected because of the source of funds, but they have a legitimate and healthy export business. So by investing in government bonds in Grenada, could they then, could that be a good route?
Grenada don't have government bonds for investment purposes. What Grenada has is a National Transformation Fund, which is a payment into a fund that the government then utilizes for projects within the country. So we don't have government bonds under the Citizenship Program.
What is the minimum amount that you have to invest in this transformation fund?
200,000 for a family of 4, 150,000 for a single applicant.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. We have one more question for Mr. Till. Mr. Jacob has asked this question. His question is, Till, that my dad is 60 years old and I'm 30 years old. We're looking at setting up a multi-cuisine restaurant in Berlin. If we are to set up our business, who should be the primary applicant? Is it mandatory for the entire family to do the language test, or only for the primary applicant?
Okay, there's a little problem there in the situation with the family, because in Germany, since it is not an investor program which is designed for to attract investors actively, we are just working with the regular extent of the law, immigration law, which allows self-employed persons to apply for a residence permit. Because of the idea of a family reunification, we can include minor children in an application. When our client has a family with parents, it looks different. Then we would need to see the adult parents as a separate application, and would need to find a separate solution for that. But also here, depending on the situation and depending especially on the financial situation, we can build a case for the parents, for example, on the basis of an exceptional residence permit. Especially when the parents are elderly, they need to be taken care of, and when the main investor would be the younger family member who is running the business actively, but the parents would be basically financially depending on the main investor. Then we might build a case on that, but all that depends on the individual situation, and there is not a guarantee for that, but it is definitely a way what we have been doing in the past.
All right. Now I have one question that is coming from a number of people listening in, and I'll pose this to each of the speakers, and I'll request you to keep your answers short because we're completely out of time. So Sarthak, let me start with you. This question is going to be posed to all. Which, just give me a yes or no, small description. Does your company, in your country, if one does permit, does it do you have to pay taxes on the global income? Is there any tax saving? And does your country have a double taxation avoidance treaty with India?
Yes.
Sarthak, you go first.
Right. Yes, Greece does have a double taxation treaty with India. And should you choose to be a tax resident of Greece, you don't have to pay tax on your worldwide income. There are companies like Amazon and Microsoft who are currently operating in Greece or the Greek jurisdiction and paying a flat out 100,000 euros, and they don't have to pay a single dime over it to whatever profits they do. We have different schemes which are available, but yes, to answer your question, double taxation treaties there with India. Thank you.
Margaret, I'll come to you.
Yes, in Grenada, you only pay taxes on income generated in Grenada. So you do not pay taxes on your worldwide income, just the income you generate in Grenada. And
no
we
capital
do have,
gains.
I beg your pardon?
No capital gains tax, no inheritance tax.
No capital gains tax, no inheritance tax, and we only collect tax on what you earn in Grenada, what you generate in Grenada. And in relation to our double taxation treaty, we have a double taxation treaty with the US, the UK, and a number of other countries.
India?
I'm not sure about India, but I will check it.
All right. Samuel, could you tell us about the tax status? Would you tax the global income?
Malta has several, I think, more than 70 double taxation treaties, even one of them with India. And the tax system in Malta, Maltese citizens and foreigners who are resident in Malta are subject to personal income tax on their worldwide income between progressive rates from 0% to 35% rates.
All right. Till, what about Germany? Is there any taxation benefit? Does Germany have a double taxation avoidance treaty with India? Till, the question is for you. What is the status in Austria and Germany when it comes to double taxation avoidance treaty with India?
I think Germany is not for tax benefits. I think that is. Yeah. Do you?
I think we're having a problem hearing Till. So till we have a more stable internet connection, I'll come to you, Ignacio. For Canada, does it have a double taxation avoidance treaty with India? And
Germany is not well known for tax benefits. Resident in Germany, and we have big GTAs with Austria. Okay. There are double taxation treaties between in Germany, India, and of course, the clients would need to be in Germany once they're resident in Germany. But depending on the case, we also work with certain tax structures to optimize the tax situation, because only income which is received in Germany is taxable as income, and if you don't pay it, there is no income and no taxation.
All right. Shilpa, for
And what I should maybe mention on top is there is preferred taxation, of course, on dividend income, which is not going as high as taxation on work income. So the maximum tax rate here is roughly about 28% in Germany, with fully legal, transparent taxation structuring.
Right. Shilpa, let me ask you for
Yeah,
those
sure.
investing
So both
hmm.
US and Portugal, and as far as I know, I think yeah, you do have even DTA with India for that. You know, it's people sometimes get very thrown off thinking that there is worldwide income. You know, there's income tax on all the worldwide tax, you know, income that you earn, and therefore they must not consider US. But I think that's not really a deal breaker if you know how to plan it. And most of the families we work with work hand in hand with their tax consultants, and they plan it in such a way that they're not taxed twice. Of course, I mean, because of the DTA, that's not going to happen. And of course, you can optimize the way your income is and your assets are structured so that your taxes are optimized. Because I'm not a tax consultant, but I've seen it from experience. I can tell you that.
All right. And Ignacio, for Canada, does Canada tax the global income of investors, and does it have a double taxation avoidance treaty with India?
Canada does have, since 1996, treaty with India to avoid double taxation. Canadian income tax rules are applicable at the provincial and the federal level. At the federal level, Canada taxes income on worldwide income. Income is taxed rather than property, so that's an important distinction to make. Canada taxes capital gains as well as income earned from a business or income earned from employment. And you know, the Canadian tax rules are really quite sophisticated, but it is an important planning point for moving to live in Canada.
All right. I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers for taking the time out to join us today and take us through the program that each one of you represents, or the different countries' programs that you represent. Samuel, Till, Shilpa, Ignacio, Sarthak, Margaret, thank you all for joining us today and answering so many questions that have come up on the programs that are run by your respective countries. Thank you all for sparing the time to join us. Just to let everyone know, the Global Arena magazine has been previewed today at IREX 2021 virtual show. So the Global Arena is a biannual magazine on international real estate investments, residency, and citizenship. It's a one-of-its-kind magazine that informs global investors of the opportunities around the world for investment and citizenship. Make sure you check out this biannual magazine. And thank you all for joining us for this discussion and taking time out to address so many people who are interested in a residency program outside their own country of residence. Thank you all.